Welcome back to another episode of Mark My Words Football Podcast with Rob
and Scott.
We're here to break down all the action from Week 7 and set you up for what's ahead in Week 8. We had some big upsets, thrilling comebacks, and standout performances that shook up the standings. As we dig into the biggest plays, the biggest surprises, and the must-watch games coming up, you won't want to miss our predictions for Week 8. Buckle up, and let's get started. So here we go. We're going to start where we always do with the Buffalo Bills. And they had a great game this week, prevailing over the Tennessee Titans by a score of 34-10. And what were your initial impressions after this one?
This was certainly a game of two halves for Buffalo, as at the half they were trailing 10-7 to Tennessee, and the offense looked absolutely putrid. Just start the game, 3 consecutive 3-and-outs, and just could not get anything going on offense. And that certainly changed around in the second half as they seemed to be able to pretty much do whatever they wanted after that and just ran up the score. It looked like the Bills that we kind of know.
Yes, and in contrast to some of their other performances, weren't really able to get the running game going too much, although Ray Davis had some explosive runs. But it really was the game that was that Josh Allen put the team on his back. And really for kind of the first time this year, or first time in a couple games that he's done that, throwing for over 300 yards and a couple TDs. Again, going with no interceptions on the year, playing very good football from Allen. And really this Bills offense just looking even better, like you said, in the second half. Finally, we're getting some really good production from the receiving core with Keon Coleman having a great game, Amari Cooper having a good game after dropping his initial pass, and Shakir with having a nice game in terms of receptions. Really looking like this receiving core is starting to get more comfortable with playing with Allen.
Yeah, finally, it seems like things are coming around for Buffalo. And as they do look where they may have some tougher games coming down the road here, Kansas City looming just ahead. That seems like it's coming at the right time.
Yes, absolutely, because you want to go into that playing the best ball. And honestly, Kansas City has not been playing great football as of late. I mean, if you look at this Bills team, they're 5-2. And if they were able to beat the Chiefs in the weeks ahead and conquer some of the other tough opponents, they could be looking at the 1 seed, which is something that I don't think either of you or I had saw coming for them this year.
Oh, certainly not. I really thought the division was going to be a tough ask. But right now it looks like they could have some just easy cruising all the way to the AFC East title again. Yeah, and certainly the 1 seed looks in play right now.
Absolutely. And as for the Titans, just the fun team that we thought we were going to get from them this year just had never really materialized. And, of course, trading away DeAndre Hopkins to the Chiefs, really, they're kind of selling the farm on this season. And Mason Rudolph providing even better production than Will Levis, too. So that's now you have a double whammy that now that you know Levis isn't your quarterback for the future. But I think we all kind of knew that wasn't the case, so it might be for the best.
Yeah, so only 5 yards per attempt for Rudolph, though, 25 of 40. No, still not a very good game for him.
No, but even better than Levis, though, especially his performance last week.
Yeah, Rudolph is not going to do a whole lot for you. He's just going to stand in the pocket and just not make a whole lot of mistakes and just kind of be there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Bills, it was definitely a little bit scary at first, seeing like, oh man, could this be another one of those games that they just fall flat? But it was nice to see him put the hammer down in the second half.
Absolutely.
And from there, we go on to a matchup between two of the great young quarterbacks coming into the league, between Stroud and Love, the Packers and the Texans. And in this one, Green Bay narrowly beat the Texans by a score of 24-22.
Yeah, and in this game, I think we both come away just super impressed by Green Bay and their game overall. I think even allowing 22 points gives that Houston had a better offensive day than they did. Holding C.J. Stroud to only 86 yards is extremely impressive. And we talked about how this defense had been just very turnover dependent to have a good game. And I think this was the first game this day where that really wasn't the case.
Yes, absolutely. And yeah, the Texans, like you said, the 22 points really doesn't reflect how poorly their offense played this game. I mean, Love having on the first drive a terrible interception that led the Texans to pretty much the goal line, and the Packers were able to make a goal line stand there and only allow a field goal to them. and really just dominating the entire game, except for the second quarter where the Texans scored 16 points. It was really a dry game for Houston, not really able to get anything going in the pass game. Although Mixon had a decent game on the ground, Green Bay really held that pass game in check, which is something that you really like to see because they were very much a splash defense, getting a lot of turnovers, but also allowing a lot of yards. And holding the Texans to under 200 yards for the game is really impressive for me. And the Packers' offense continues to hum, with Jordan Love slinging the ball across the yard, maybe a little bit too much, leaning to that Brett Favre comp. But the scheming is incredible, once again, by LaFleur. I mean, if you look at the highlights of this game, almost all the passes that are completed to the receivers, they're wide open. So great route running, but great play designs as well from Green Bay.
Yeah, I think if without the 3 turnovers, you could have been looking at a blowout in this game.
Absolutely. And that's kind of been the biggest thing that I've seen from Jordan Love, is that he's leaning into throwing the ball and taking risks, but it's also kind of been biting him a little bit with the interceptions, just making some throws that are very questionable, like that first interception into double coverage, things like that. He needs to clean those up a little bit because it looks very much like a younger Josh Allen at this point from him.
Yeah, and those are things that, like, during the win, they're going to get glossed over, and people aren't going to talk about them much.
Yes.
But flip the script, if this was a loss, like, people would be hammering on that all week long.
Absolutely, and he has to understand, like, I think he's been great, and every game he'll make a few throws that you're just like, oh my gosh, what a throw. And he did that in this game for sure. But he needs to be cognizant of what this team is. This is a team that can run the ball extremely well with Josh Jacobs. This is a team that does very well in the screen game and like the bubble screens and things like that. So he has to be cognizant of, hey, I don't need to be hero ball. I don't need to be making all these wild throws because we have a great offense either way. So I think, yes, they got away with a great win. I think you have to feel good about this win, but definitely need to clean up those turnovers.
Yes.
And from there, we will head on to the Clown of the Week from NFL Week 7.
Everybody loves a good clown, and now it's time to meet the NFL's Clown of the Week for this week. And this week, the Clown of the Week in the NFL is the New York Giants, and more specifically, the New York Giants front office. So this week, the Giants were just absolutely manhandled by the Philadelphia Eagles and by an old friend, Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley, who they let walk during the offseason. And I've just been very critical of this Giants offensive management and just management in general in their front office since they've come into place. They've just been an awful job of getting offensive talent in this building other than drafting elite neighbors. And I think today, really put that on full show. New York Giants, 119 yards of total offense was the lowest output of the century for that team, whereas their old friend Barkley went for 187 total yards on his own. Wouldn't that have been nice to have on your team today? I think we could all agree it was. But Giants, just what an absolute mess has been for that organization. Not being able to bring in any talent, of any kind throughout this. Making Daniel Jones your quarterback and paying him what you did. Just clown-worthy decisions. And trotting that out here every week. This is going to cost people some jobs. New York Giants, you are the clowns of the week.
All right, and from there, we are going to head on to our game picks and predictions for Week 8. And we're going to start it off with the Thursday night football game between the Minnesota Vikings and the Los Angeles Rams. The Vikings coming off their first loss of the season to the Detroit Lions. Do you think they'll bounce back here?
I do. I have the Vikings winning this one.
And I'll take the Rams.
Yeah, for me personally, I don't think there was anything that really made me worry about this Viking team and how they lost to the Lions. So I honestly feel pretty confident that they can get a win versus the Rams this week.
Yeah, I'm taking the Rams here in part because I want to keep defending my prediction from last week that I marked my words that the Los Angeles Rams would win the division, win the NFC West. And I still feel very confident in that, especially because the 49ers have not looked great. But I'm also going to pick the Rams here because I saw an interesting stat the other day that all the teams that have faced the Detroit Lions, the week after, they have lost, all of them. So I think the Lions are a very physical team that just tend to beat you up. And I think the Vikings, on a short week going to LA, are going to be a little bit tired, especially compared to a Rams team that just came off a cakewalk against the Raiders. So give me the Rams in this one.
All right.
And from there, we're going to go to the Ravens taking on the Browns in an AFC North matchup. And who do you have winning this one?
I'll, of course, have the Ravens winning this one.
And I will as well.
Yeah, Ravens coming off a really nice win on Monday Night Football. The score is very much deceiving.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, the Buccaneers got off to a good start in that one, but it didn't take long for the Ravens to put the medal down. And I think they scored like 31 unanswered points in that game. So, yeah, it was a blowout, but kind of like what happened in the Cowboys game where they just, garbage time points ran the score up closer than what it actually was.
Yeah, and then the Browns, on the other hand, seeing Watson go down and go out, and in comes Jameis Winston, and hoping that Meg provides some type of spark for the Browns offense. Just got Nick Chubb back last week as well.
Yeah, good to see him scoring a touchdown. But, yeah, Watson, unfortunately, that trade is just absolutely – it's just been an atrocious trade, giving him all that guaranteed money, and he hasn't even been available that much. When he has been, he's been absolutely atrocious. So I think Winston, you can't really do much worse than what you're getting with Watson. So I think it's safe to say Winston will give him some sort of a spark, at least like from a morale sort of standpoint, if not on the field.
Yeah, but I think for the Cleveland team, it is too little, too late.
Absolutely. And from there, we're going on to a matchup between the Titans and the Lions. And who do you have taking this one?
I have the Lions winning this one.
As will I.
Yeah, and like we talked about with the Titans before, a team that saw their season circling the drain. I think we've seen it completely pour out. And then as for the Lions, a team that I think just seems to be rising continually as the weeks go on this year.
Yes, feeling very good about the Lions. I picked them to go to the Super Bowl, and they've definitely been looking like the prime cut of the NFC. I do worry a little bit about Hutchinson going down and how they're going to be able to compete against the really elite offenses, but I think they're going to manhandle the Titans here, and I just love the fight that this team has. I love the attitude that Dan Campbell brings to the table, and so, yeah, Lions are going to keep on roaring.
Yeah, absolutely. How can you not love this team?
Yeah, seriously. But I did have a good trade idea for them. We know the Raiders are selling the farm, giving away Devontae Adams, and we know that Hutchinson went down, so I think they should really pursue Max Crosby, because the Raiders, they're not going anywhere for a long time, and that's exactly what the Lions need right now.
Yeah, be curious to see if they can make the money work.
Yeah, that would be incredible if they were, but I just had that thought, like, man, Hutchinson's down. He was such a key part of that defense. Like, it would be really cool if they were able to get another pass rusher. Maybe not Crosby, if maybe they can get someone like Jadeveon Clowney or Zadarius Smith up in there.
Yeah.
But, yeah, Lions, I'm definitely feeling confident about them for the season. I think they are definitely the best team in the NFC.
I would agree.
And from there, we go to what should be a pretty fun game between the Arizona Cardinals and the Miami Dolphins, getting Tua back. And who do you think will win this one?
I have the Cardinals winning this one.
And I'm going to take the Miami Dolphins here.
I still think that Tua is not going to be 100% this week, and Tyreek Hill questionable as well. Him not 100%. Dolphins offense just looking putrid without Tua. I don't know that a not 100% Tua is really going to come and just change the world here. And Cardinals have been good enough for me. I'll take them this week.
Yeah, I definitely hear what you're putting down. Just a lot of questions surrounding the Dolphins right now. But, coming off a bye, I think they've had time to really digest this matchup against the Cardinals. And the Cardinals have looked pretty good, but also very inconsistent. So I do think Tua will be able to come back and look pretty good. So I will take the Dolphins here, but I think it will be a very close matchup.
Yes.
And from there, we go on to a matchup between two bad teams, the New York Jets and the New England Patriots. And who do you have winning this one?
I have the Jets winning this one.
And as do I.
Man, the Jets, just what an awful showing on Sunday Night Football.
Yep.
You were off to, 15-6 lead. Looked like you were going to get that game in hand, and then just nothing after that.
And what did Russell Wilson look like in the first half?
He looked like an absolute bum first half. Absolute bum.
Yes, absolutely. But somehow the Jets made him look like the Russell Wilson of old in the second half. So, I don't know what to think of this team anymore. Do they have a good defense? I don't know. You fired the guy that was responsible for it. Like, do they have a good offense? I don't know. Like, Rodgers looks nothing like the guy he used to be. So, like, I don't even know where I'm going to put my confidence in this team.
Like, you bring in Devontae Adams, and your offense looks as bad as it ever has.
Exactly. It's like, I picked the Jets to win the division this year, and now that's looking like an absolute clown pick. Like, I don't know where I'm supposed to be confident in this. Like, I'm not confident in the defense to be an anchor. I'm not confident, certainly, in the pass game. And they were supposed to have a good running game, but Breece Hall really hasn't done anything on the ground. Most of his yards have come from screens. So I just don't know what part of this team is actually good. So, I think they're going to be good enough to beat the Patriots, but, man, I'm just really frustrated with the Jets. Hopefully they can get it going, but it seems like they've done everything wrong to this point.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And the Patriots, I think, are the worst team in the NFL. Drake May has offered a bit of a spark, but I mean, this offensive line is absolutely awful, and they have no weapons on the offense.
Yeah, they traded away any talent that was left on that team.
Yes.
I think to ensure that they would not have a very good year.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they knew what this year was going to be when they decided to sit Drake May in favor of Brissett, who they admitted was not going to give them production as well as May.
And as well trading away Matthew Judon, your most talented player.
Exactly. So, yeah, this was already going to be a toilet year for the Patriots, and definitely looking like that.
Yeah.
And then we go on to an NFC South matchup between the Atlanta Falcons and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And who do you think will win this showdown?
The Buccaneers winning this one.
And I'm going to take the Falcons.
Yeah, this one was a very good game just a couple of weeks ago when we had it in prime time, and it went to overtime with the Falcons having a bit of a comeback there. But I will still take the Buccaneers despite the being without Chris Godwin and perhaps Mike Evans.
Wow, yeah, that's what scared me away from taking them in this game. You know that Baker's my guy, but I just couldn't take them in this one. I think the Falcons are going to be angry coming off that loss to the Seahawks, and yeah, I just want to see how the offense looks without Godwin and Evans first.
Yeah, makes sense.
And from there, we're going on to the Packers, fresh off a win against the Texans, facing the Jaguars, fresh off the plane from London. And who do you have winning this one?
The Packers winning this one.
As will I.
Yeah, Jaguars coming off definitely their best game of the year. Looking quite good against New England after a rough start, but they got it together. And even at 2-5, it's like you might have a chance if you could really go on a run here, but I don't know. It's not going to start this week, I don't think.
No, yeah, Packers are just playing too good right now, and the only thing, like I said, that's been worrying me is Jordan Love's turnovers, but I think this is going to be a really good ground and pound game. Jaguars are dead last against the run this year, so I think this is going to be a game where we're going to see a lot of Josh Jacobs, and I think if the Packers get up early, if they get up by a couple possessions early, which is very likely, this one's going to be over before we can count to the first half.
Yep.
And then we have a matchup between the Indianapolis Colts and the Houston Texans. And who do you have taking this one?
I'll have Houston winning this one.
And I will as well.
And I think here Houston, their team that their record doesn't quite indicate how good they've been, I'd say. I've been very disappointed by Houston this year. Even though they've got the good record, they just don't have the quality of wins to show for it.
Yes, absolutely. Something about them has looked off. They looked a little bit sluggish on the offense. And the defense has been playing fairly well, but just something about the chemistry, I think it is, and putting the new pieces together. It's going to take a little bit of time. I wouldn't be too concerned if you had the Texans going far into the playoffs, because I think as the season go on, they're going to be one of the teams that improves the most. But I do think, yes, absolutely, I haven't been too impressed by them so far. But the Colts with Anthony Richardson are just way too much of a wild card for me to pick them.
Yeah, they're a very interesting team to have a winning record right now, 4-3. They've just had some weird kind of grinded out close wins.
Yeah, absolutely. But credit to Shane Steichen, kind of been the anchor of that team, steadying the ship the whole way.
Yeah, he certainly has. I think he's a very good coach.
Yes, I do as well. And I think this is going to be a close game. I really see the Colts as a competitive, hard-nosed team. And, going in here, it's a divisional game. I don't know why the line is -4.5. I would have this more at like a 1.5 line. So maybe get in on some Colts action here. But, yeah, I think it's going to be a hard-nosed game. Wouldn't be surprised if the Colts stole it.
All right.
And then we have a matchup between the Eagles and the Bengals. And who do you have winning this cross-conference matchup?
The Bengals winning this one.
As will I.
I think they are finally starting to get a little bit of their mojo here, and I do like them to finally get back to 500.
Yes, and from what I've seen with the Eagles this year, I've not been impressed at all, especially with Jalen Hurts really just not having a good year with turnovers and also lack of yards, only throwing for 115 yards last week. Just not been impressed with the Eagles as a team this year.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think you will always tend to see those type of games from Hurts sometimes, but I think this year has been even more prevalent, especially with the interception and some definite bad ones. And I think they are very lucky to have the record they do right now.
Absolutely. And the Bengals, this would be a great win for them to get up to 500. You're 4-4, and all of a sudden the season that seemed like it was doomed a few weeks ago is not looking so bad. So I think the Bengals need this one more, and I think they're the better team. So absolutely, I'm going to take the Bengals here.
Yep.
And then we have a matchup between the New Orleans Saints and the Los Angeles Chargers. And who will you take in this one?
I'll have the Chargers winning this one. Yeah.
And I will also have the Chargers.
Yeah, it seemed like last week the Chargers finally let Justin Herbert out of his handcuffs and let him toss it around the yard a little bit. Almost 330 yards for Herbert, but still lost in Arizona.
Yeah, kind of a painful throw in that first quarter. Herbert throwing a dime, but the receiver dropping the ball there, and kind of just Charger football. Should have won the game. Heartbreak at the end with a field goal. But I think the Chargers are playing pretty good football right now, and I think they're a better team than most of us think. I had them making the playoffs. I still think they'll be able to do that and win double-digit games. And I think they're going to get back on track with a win here against the Saints team that I think is just a dumpster fire right now. I think they're a bottom feeder team in the league.
Yeah, I would agree, and I think good for you for calling it out back at the start when everyone was all on the Saints train. I had hopped aboard that by mistake.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I just, to me, I felt very strongly coming into the year that the Saints were not going to be a good team, and even though they did look pretty good offensively in the first 2 weeks, it even made me consider thinking maybe I was wrong. I stuck to my guns on that one, and I'm glad I did, because 2-5, and I think they're going to be 2-6. Yikes, not good.
Yep.
And then we have a game between the Buffalo Bills and the Seattle Seahawks. And who do you have taking this one?
I'll have the Bills winning this one.
And I will as well.
I think this is going to be absolutely one of the games of the week. I think it's going to be a really fun one.
Should be a high-scoring one. Seahawks defense has not lived up to the expectation this year, but Geno Smith has just absolutely been slinging it this year, playing very good football, in my opinion.
Although I think for the Bills, what they're going to end up worrying about a little bit more is Kenneth Walker on the ground. I think that really is the potential for the Bills' run defense to get tore up this week.
Oh, absolutely, yes. If the Seahawks are able to establish that ground game in the first half, I think that's going to be very problematic for the Bills, because the Seahawks, Geno Smith has been very good this year, throwing for a lot of yards with very talented receivers. But if they can lean on that run game first, which is what they really want to do, and then this could be a pretty close game very quickly. And I do think the Bills are the more talented roster. I think they have the better quarterback and the better coach, but it could be a very close game in this one.
Yeah.
And then we have an interesting matchup between the Chicago Bears and the Washington Commanders. And who do you have winning this one?
I'll have the Bears winning this one.
I will as well.
Yeah, interesting is definitely a good word for it. And this is the one where I'm like, I don't know what to do with this exactly. Jane Daniels questionable for Washington, and I don't know how much trust I have in that team without him. Mariota looked very good last week, but do I trust he's going to do that again? How much do I trust Washington defense? How much do I trust the Bears? I don't know, not very much, but we'll pick them to win anyway.
Yeah, well, I actually think I do trust the Bears a bit, because they have a very good defense. I know they've played cupcakes, but their defense has been very strong, and Caleb Williams has gradually looked better each week. I mean, you take out those first two games, and he's actually been a pretty decent quarterback this year. So I'm pretty confident in the Bears. I think that they're a very good fourth-place team in the NFC North. And the Commanders, with that weak defense that I don't really believe in, and also, like you said, Daniels being questionable, I think the Bears are just a more sure bet here.
Yeah.
And then we have a matchup between the Carolina Panthers and the Denver Broncos. And who do you have taking this one?
I'll have Denver winning this one.
I will as well.
And how do the Broncos have a winning record?
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I'm trying to wonder here, and it looks like they'll probably get another one then. Panthers will be without both Adam Thielen and Deontay Johnson in this one, as well as Bryce Young starting at quarterback. I don't think that is quite the recipe for success that Carolina is looking for.
Yeah, I mean, the Broncos beating some teams that, yes, they've been facing some bottom feeders like beating the Raiders and the Saints, but they've also had some pretty good wins against the Buccaneers and the Jets. So, yeah, Denver, just to me, a well-coached team with a solid enough quarterback in Bo Nix. He has his moments for sure, don't get me wrong. But the Panthers are absolute dumpster fire, and I think the Broncos should roll in this one.
Yes.
And then we have a AFC West matchup between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Las Vegas Raiders. Who do you have winning this one?
I'll have the Chiefs winning this one.
And I will have the Chiefs as well.
Yeah, I think this will be one of their rarer blowouts this year.
Yes. Yeah, they really haven't had that blowout game this year. I really have been waiting just to see Mahomes start to air it out. And maybe the addition of Hopkins will help, but I do think the Chiefs will roll in this one.
Yeah, for sure. Raiders selling the farm. I think they're already going to be starting to lose their players. I don't know.
Yeah, they've already. Pierce has lost the locker room already, and this is a joke franchise that has not run things well over the last decade, and it's evident on the field. And I think everyone's lost hope in this team.
Yep.
And then we have probably the game of the week here, between the Dallas Cowboys and the San Francisco 49ers, both teams not having the seasons that they expected to have. Who do you think will get back on track?
Oh, the 49ers winning this one?
And I will as well.
Yeah, I think definitely both these teams have been disappointing. I think Cowboys may even be slightly worse than the record indicates at 500 there. Yeah. And the 49ers, certainly disappointment. And now without Ayuk for the season and Samuel up in the hospital, like things don't look incredible there.
Right, yeah. Ayuk out for the season. Samuel, Kittle, questionable. McCaffrey's out for this game as well. I mean, this is just an injury-littered team. This is kind of what we used to see from the 49ers, just so many injuries. But still, I think I trust them more than the Dallas Cowboys, who just have not looked good at all. We have no running game whatsoever, and their defense has looked really bad. Just very basic scheming, and Micah Parsons is going to be out as well. So I'm going to take the 49ers at home here. Not looking good on Dallas's part at all.
Yep, I would agree.
And we conclude the week with a game between the Giants and the Steelers on Monday night. Who do you think wins this one?
Well, the Steelers winning this one.
And I will as well.
And I guess it's finally time to admit for me, maybe the Steelers won't be 5-12 this year.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, they might lose 10 games in a row. And now, it's time for Rob's Fantasy Starts and Sits. All right, yes, so last week in the starts and sits, not our best week. We had some unsuccessful picks. I told you to start Tony Pollard, who ended up finishing as the number 32 running back. And I also told you to start Evan Ingram. He ended up finishing as the number 25 tight end. Then I said to sit Nick Chubb. He finished as the number 25 running back, so that was the one we got right. But then I also said sit tight end Tucker Kraft. He ended up finishing as the number 6 tight end. So looking to get back on track this week, changing it up from what I usually do. At least thought process wise, I'm going to go into the starts and sits with 1, 2, 3 Ramondre Stevenson as my first start of the week. Yeah, Ramondre Stevenson has had a pretty good year this year, going for a lot of carries. And the first 2 games when the Patriots were looking pretty good, beating the Bengals and nearly beating the Seahawks, he had 25 carries and 21 carries in those 2 games. So I think the Patriots need to get back to the ground game with Stevenson. The last game only having 7 carries for 18 yards against the Jacksonville Jaguars team that is not very good against the run. So I think the Patriots need to lean on Ramondre as they come into a weak Jets defense. The Jets, not very good against the run, getting churned up by the Steelers and also the Bills in weeks prior. So I would say trust in the Patriots offense in Ramondre Stevenson. Start him this week. And I would also say start Amari Cooper, receiver for the Buffalo Bills, in his debut, having a pretty modest output, but also looking pretty good as he went for 4 catches and 66 yards and a touchdown. I think he's going to be much more involved in the offense as they start actually making plays for him. So I think that connection with Josh Allen will further begin to spark here against the Seahawks defense that has not been good this year. So I would say start Amari Cooper. Then in the sits, I'll tell you to sit running back for the New York Giants, Devin Singletary. And Singletary not having a great week last week against the Eagles as he only ran for 18 yards, averaging 3.6 yards a carry. And this week, the Giants facing a very good Steelers defense. I expect this to be a blowout, and it's going to be very quick. So I think they're going to lean on that pass game. Singletary not going to get many opportunities to run. Similar to last week against the Eagles, I would say sit Devin Singletary. And also, I would tell you to sit receiver for the Colts, and I'm sorry, Scott, to do this again, Michael Pittman, as I think he's, again, one of the most overhyped receivers, not because of his talent, but because of his quarterback. One of the most overhyped quarterbacks is Anthony Richardson. And Michael Pittman has scored single-digit fantasy points in all 4 of the games that Richardson has been throwing in the ball. Really, the only success he has seen is when Joe Flacco has been throwing the ball. So as Richardson is starting this game against a pretty good Texans defense, I would sit Michael Pittman. And from there, we're going to go on to Scott's parlay of the week. Scott, how did you do last week? What do you got for this one?
Last week was a nice win for us, as we got in the win column with Detroit, Indianapolis, and Seattle the win. And we're going to look to continue our luck this week. So this week in our parlay, we have got the Minnesota Vikings. I don't quite understand why the Rams have gotten quite the respect they have this week, so I think I got the Vikings at a number I like quite a lot, minus 148, so I'm definitely on them. Also like the Bengals, minus 134, a good enough number for me versus the Eagles. I think they are a better team, so I like the Bengals this one. I also like the Bills. I've got them at minus 172 versus Seattle, and it should be a close one, but I think the Bills will pull it out. So this week, bet on the money line, Minnesota Vikings, Cincinnati Bengals, Buffalo Bills.
All right, good stuff going there. And we are so glad to have you listen to this edition of Mark My Words Football Podcast. We appreciate your support, and we look forward to another exciting week of NFL football. And this has been Mark My Words Football Podcast with Rob
And Scott.
And we are tuning